younger people have to help old people in their daily. Let me just open here my machine. Dear Jarko, very good to be here again. Very good to see you again. We have worked together already many years ago in the Asia, and I have the pleasure of now working with you in the IBA. Dear Hannah, I don't see Hannah. Hi, Hannah. Thank you very much for your hospitality, for organizing that. This is a wonderful gathering of lawyers. I'm impressed by the numbers. Thank you very much, Jarko, for your excellent speech, and especially for having sent the translation to me beforehand. So I was able to follow it, and indeed, when you say that the most important problem, according to the rule of law that Finland has, is costs of the procedures and length of the procedures, this makes that really, as it is evident, all countries of the world would like very much to be Finland. I'm very honored to be here again. I must tell you that I spoke to the same gathering already many years ago. I was in Aulanko, at that time invited by President Pekka Sirvio. He invited me to speak in an Aulanko gathering of lawyers. I have many friends in Finland, and I saw many of them today. I have come to Finland very, very often. Those friends of mine that know me well know how much I appreciate the Finnish culture, the Finnish language, which I, of course, and how much I appreciate the Finnish people. Actually, when I was in Aulanko, I had the opportunity of being invited by those friends of mine for a smoke sauna. And this was one of the biggest experiences of my lifetime, because after the smoke sauna, we jumped in the frozen lake. And I was very much afraid. I said, are there animals here or something? Because I'm Brazilian. There are alligators, piranhas, and everything. And then I realized that it's not very usual, maybe, to have piranhas in Finland, especially in the neighborhoods of Aulanko. At that time, I have started my very short speech in Aulanko by saying, Puhum Suomea, meta en hyvin. Meta ei hyvin. So my Finnish didn't get any better from there to now, so it's still meta ei hyvin. In any case, I came here to speak a little bit about one of the most important goals, one of the most important objectives of our association, which is to protect and to promote the rule of law. I ask your authorization, dear friends, to show a video that was produced by the IBA.
Things like judges that are independent, freedom of the press, and officials who can't be corrupted are just some of the essential elements of what's known as the rule of law. They are the building blocks that support our freedoms. But take one of these elements away, and the rule of law is in danger of collapsing, and our freedoms along with it. So, beware of any attempts to erode the rule of law, because if you look after the rule of law, it will look after you.
Look after the rule of law, and the rule of law will look after you. This is a campaign we have launched last year in the IBA. We have prepared 8 short videos like this one. They are all in our site, ibanet.org, and they can be used by anybody. There is no copyright involved, anything, so everybody can take them and show them. So I encourage you to go, first of all, watch them in our site, but also show it to your friends, to your colleagues, to your partners, to your bars. There are, of course, sometimes one has the impression that it is so difficult to describe the rule of law that it will never. There are, of course, during history many discussions on what the rule of law means and what are the conditions for the rule of law. It is so easy for us lawyers to know where the rule of law prevails and when it does not prevail, but it is very difficult for us to really define it. I have read hundreds of definitions of rule of law. They are all similar, but they are not the same. In any case, the structure of the rule of law is like this puzzle that we saw here. If we take one of the components of the rule of law, then the rule of law does not exist anymore. You may have all the components. If you take out one, then the puzzle is, like we say here, destroyed. You cannot define rule of law. Of course, there is a strong part of the rule of law that refers to culture, to cultural particularities of the nations, but we all know that rule of law is something that has to be taken as it is. I have been traveling a lot, and I heard, for instance, in China from the minister, now, some months ago, from the Minister of Justice, that China lives in a complete rule of law system, only that it is the Chinese rule of law. Then I went to Cuba, and I spoke to the Minister of Justice in Cuba, and he said, no, this is rule of law perfectly, because I always say that we are worried about the rule of law. And he said, no, this is the socialist rule of law. Then you speak to people supportive of the government in Venezuela, and they say, this is also rule of law. We have elections, we have a court, only that all of the components of the court are cousins of Nicolás Maduro. But this doesn't matter a lot. So that it is, and nowadays in the world, we are seeing so many threats to the rule of law. I always say that the world, in terms of rule of law, is not getting any better. Unfortunately, nowadays we see threats to the rule of law in countries like mine, Brazil, in countries like the United States, in countries like Poland, in countries like Hungary, in Singapore, which is one of the most advanced countries in the world in terms of economy. Actually, rule of law and economy have nothing to do one with the other. So we have in the IBA understood that it is now time for the lawyers in the world and the IBA as a global voice of the legal profession to promote and to protect the rule of law more than ever. In 2005, the IBA has adopted a rule of law resolution, and it has listed the essential characteristics of the rule of law. I'll read some of them for you. Independent and impartial judiciary, presumption of innocence, right to a fair and public trial, rational approach to punishment, strong and independent legal profession, protection to confidential information between lawyer and client, equality of all before the law. Today, if I would review that, I would suggest adding legislations that are consistent with human rights, international norms, and standards. We, the legal profession, are committed to protect and to promote the rule of law. And I always said, between us, don't tell anybody, this is a small group, but I always say that we have to protect and promote the rule of law out of selfishness. We must be selfish enough to promote the rule of law, because without the rule of law, we do not exist. So it is very important that we know that it is a selfish objective to promote and we are the products of the rule of law. We only exist because of the rule of law. We only matter because of the rule of law. So I invite you to think of that. I invite you once again to see the videos to watch the videos that we have produced. And time's up. And only two things. The IBA has conducted a survey on bullying and sexual harassment in the legal profession. The results were frightening. I also invite you to look at this report in the IBA page. We are now in an open campaign to really abolish, which is impossible, sexual harassment and bullying in the legal profession. Further to that, just invite you to come to our annual conference this year. It will start on the 22nd of September in the city of Seoul in South Korea. Thank you very much.